wanna see good news. You don't see on regular TV. From another perspective, something relative to your needs. And we gonna have deep subjects, and we gonna turn the lens. And there's no topic we won't skip. So please don't miss weekly. Tune in to weekly check-in. Weekly check-in. Weekly check-in. Weekly check-in. Tune in to weekly. Tune in check-in. Weekly check-in.
I woke up to some really sad news. Shock G of Digital Underground passed away. I don't know if it was last night, yesterday or the day before, but has recently passed away. He was found dead in a hotel room in Tampa, Florida. This makes the third hip hop icon to have passed within these 2 weeks. This has been a blow to music. This has been a blow to hip hop. It has been a blow to Gen Xers and millennials who rocked off of, this type of music. I want to hear your thoughts, Sherice, since you are an Oaklander, Oakland. What is the community saying, or what are your thoughts around this?
Anytime you start to see a cluster of Black deaths, my antennas go up. Just personally. Anytime you start to see a cluster of Black deaths, my antenna kind of goes up. And I'm not saying that, and let me be very clear, God rest Dmx Soul, but I mean, he's been getting high for a while. Why this one, right? Now we have another mysterious situation where an artist is found in a hotel room. I mean, the narratives are similar, right? And so for me, I haven't even processed the grief part of it yet, because I'm still on and I don't want to say a conspiracy theorist, because I don't want to, that's not what it is, but my antennas always go up. When you study white supremacy and you study racism and you see these types of actions happening, my antennas always go up to say, well, why now? What's going on right now that would then warrant something of this nature? And so that's where I still am. I haven't even really processed the grief, haven't really reached out to people in the community to have conversations. I know that it's a big conversation right now in my on my social media feeds, because I am from Oakland. But I'm still stuck at that point.
Okay. Dame?
Yeah, man, it's tragic. And as these things continue to happen, I continue to feel like pieces of my childhood are dying. And I start to feel bad because I feel like our hip hop legends are leaving too early.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Like, I want us to be Keith Richards and Mick Jagger. You know what I mean? Like, I want us to be 80 years old after smoking cigarettes and doing coke for 40 years and still being able to be on stage. You know what I mean? The Shock G thing hit me just because, one, that was like one of my biggest personal musical influences. Like growing up, the fact that he was kind of like one of the first hip hop bands. They didn't market it like that, but if you look at what they did and how they rocked on stage, they were like the hip hop parliament, funkadelic, like the way they came out, the whole stage show, having the big joints on stage, like things that I'll never forget. But then, like you said, it's the back-to-back that kills you. Like, you have DMX, Black Rob, Shock G, but then not too long ago, even though you had Prince Marky D from the Fat Boys, you know what I mean? And then and then my man from Houdini. Yeah, MF Doom, my man from Houdini. Like it's like, yo, we haven't, and it's like a lot of the same age range, like, right? That 53 to 58 is young. You know what I mean? It's young for the and again, to kind of to Sharice's point, a lot of these deaths, you're not even really getting like the cause of death. Like, I don't know how Prince Marky D passed. I don't know how my man from Houdini passed. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know how.
There's still questions around DMX.
Still questions around DMX. Yeah, right? Yeah. So it's like all these things are happening. I'm like, yo, this is way out. Like, you don't even hear like it was a heart attack. It was a stroke. Like, just like he passed away. And so it's I don't know, man. It's just really disheartening. But also, I feel like this is a bigger discussion too towards just Black men in our community and Black men in our health in general. because a lot of Black men, we don't take care of our health the way we need to, like just being real, just being honest. And like, again, I don't know if Shock G's was about his health. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what that, but like Black Rob, you know, having kidney failure and 4 strokes at 50 years old, like that's kind of crazy. You know, you've been saying that you go think back to Nate Dogg with like liver failure and shit like that at 38 years old. You know what I mean? Like,
but Dame, that's what the stress of white supremacy does on your body. Right? If you don't have proper outlets, that's what the stress of white supremacy does on your body. It is more than just my pocketbook. It is more than just
absolutely.
It's more than just the food on my table. It is literally my physical being.
Well, not just that.
Break that down, right? And health-wise, as you say, it'll break those things down. Stress will cause so many levels of induction, right? It can cause ulcers, it can cause liver failure, it can cause kidney, that level of
high blood pressure, strokes.
High blood pressure. And we're not giving Black men spaces to have these types of conversations. We are not producing safe spaces for them to go to the doctor and not feel less of a man or less judged.
On top of that, spaces for us to even feel like we could trust the doctor. Like my dad had, like, now in his 60s, he's finally like, we got him to go take his appointments and to go, you know, but before that, it was really, I don't trust the doctors. I don't want to go. Or because we couldn't afford it, you not going to go till you're damn near dying. And so even when you do get insurance, your mind don't change from what you grew up on. Even when you get insurance, you don't think to take advantage, like, oh, I just need to go to the dentist for something regular. It's like, I'm not going to the dentist till I'm dying and feel like it's a hole in my head. You know what I mean? So those are the psychological side of white supremacy and medical apartheid. You know what I mean? Like that's the other side of it is like, well, a lot of us won't even go to the doctor. Like, oh, if I can still stand up, my leg don't hurt too bad. You know what I mean? Like, so there's all these kind of cycles we have to break ourselves out of when it comes to like Black men, healthcare, self-care, and safe spaces to talk about those things and to get people to say, hey, it's okay to go to the doctor when you're not dying. You know what I mean? It's okay to go to the doctor and get tests ran when you're feeling just a little discomfort. It shouldn't get to the point where I can't get out of bed, and then that's when I go to the doctor. You know, like I had a cousin who passed away from COVID a while back, and he was at the house and they were like, yo, you need to go to the hospital. And he like, just give me some fruit and I'll be fine. Give me some fruit and water. And he tried, and to the point where by the time he did go to the hospital, he's immediately on a ventilator and we lose him a few days later. But I know that goes back to, you know, he grew up on the East Side, been in the East Side his whole life. So they have that aversion where it's like, I'm not going to the hospital. Don't trust it, because a lot of those hospitals aren't, you know, the hospitals that we have in our areas and neighborhoods a lot of times aren't even good as well. So it's just like, you know, it's so much compounded, but these are the things, excuse me, these are some of the things that it made me think about when I'm looking at these back-to-back deaths. I'm like, yo, Black man, we sick. You know, like they like in so many ways, be it addiction, be it health, you know what I'm saying, be it psychologically, like Black man, we sick.
But Dame, they want you to be sick because they know if they have you whole, you are their competition, and not just their competition in jobs and business and all of that. You're their competition when it comes to their women. And that is the foundation. They want you.
And a lot of that is imagined too. Let's say that, you know, as well.
No, most of it's imagined, right? Most of it's imagined. A lot of the caricature of what a Black man is, all of it is imagined to suit their fantasy that then justifies oppression, right? All of it is. But in their fantasy, in their fanatic world, right? I have to keep you sick because then you'll come after my money, you'll come after my honey, and you'll come after my family, right? Yeah. And those are the things that they have created. And so those cycles are still perpetuating and spinning themselves out in our present day.
I honestly think that there's a fear of power. The ultimate coming after power it might be in the guise of what they say is the money and the honey and the family, but it's really ultimately power. Now, you know, I don't know if that's making sense.
No, that does make sense because like I see that because if you even thought, we talked about this in regards to black male Trump supporters. It's always black male Republican Trump supporters trying to get not dismantle that power, trying to get proximity to it. Mm-hmm. And when you see them getting too close in proximity to it, they get that nigga wake up call. Right. No matter how much they've been carrying water for the Republicans, how much they've been carrying water for 45, when they feel like they're getting too close to actually gaining some footing on that proximity to power, you see it's like, oh, real quick. Oh no, we're gonna make sure you still the help. You know what I mean?
Hey, down where you are, Dr. Parham is the president of Cal State Dominguez Hills, and he has a definition. He's brilliant, and one of the first black man to then get tenured at an Ivy League in psychology, right? And his definition of power is the ability to influence the discourse and push people to action. That's his definition for power, right? And if we think about power in that way, Kai, I think you're exactly right. It's the power to control the money, right? Because we all know that money is only made based upon the power that's wielded. And that power that's wielded is your ability to affect the discourse, right? I just watched on Netflix, The Godfather, about Clarence Avant, right? And it's about the ability to move the discourse, right? They talked about how in one scene where this is back in the day when Mike and E.T. thing, and they were trying to work it out. And they said they're at this long board table with all of these white men. And he said, one of the lawyers said, well, who's the black man? Who is he here representing? And one of the studio's execs says he's here to represent all of us, right? He the one with the power. He the one with the ability to push the discourse. And you're exactly right, Kaia. That's what they're most afraid of. They're most afraid of Black men in particular having the ability to move the discourse, because they know that the likelihood of them moving that discourse is going to be away from individualism, which allows them to covet. It's going to be a push towards community, right? Dame showed this even in his Facebook narratives about things that have happened this week. His thing is, well, what can the community do? What can the community do? That's where the Black man's first natural inclination is to go. A white man's natural inclination is then to their own individual selves. And so if they allow this power to slip away, they will not have the ability to control the individual, because it will be about the community.
And also, hip hop has wielded a lot of power over the years. It has been, in my opinion, the most powerful musical genre, even more powerful than jazz. I mean, well, it's the child of jazz and blues and gospel and everything. So it is all that energy, all of that savvy compounded, and delivered in this unadulterated, way. And so I think that's why hip hop is a medium that is sought after to be so controlled and perverted and be made vulgar.
Well, think about it, Kaya. Just like you said, like hip hop is the child of all of those music forms. But you go back to all of those music forms before. This child is the first one that's going to net you multi-millionaires and billionaires. This musical form is the first one to net us some musical millionaires, and I'm talking about 500 million and over, and billionaires.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, this is the first one to do that, and not only this the first one where you see since Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte that they said, oh, and we also gonna start using this art form for politics.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you do have that power, and that is why they try to bastardize it. Like I said, I've been in these rooms with executives where they are really, really against anything that looks positive for Black children coming from hip hop.
And Dave, what they did with jazz, and the reason it wasn't able to produce said millionaires, right, in a lesser form, of course, because the economic prowess was different, they brought in heroin. Right? Yeah. They brought in heroin to kill jazz in a way that it wouldn't, because what they realized was in the game and the scheme at that point was, right? See, at this point in music, there's the ability to have different entry points. At that point in musical history, there wasn't as many entry points. You were either the booker, you were either the person the person booking the talent, you're the person distributing the music, or you're the person that owned the music, right? The entry points were a lot, or you were the talent, right? You were the talent. Right? Those are the 4 entry points. Now with technology, right, and the increase of technology, it creates all of these other entry points, which then allows more money to circulate, which allows a lot more money to be made. Well, now here becomes the problem, because in jazz, I was able to shut it down just by injecting heroin, right? Mm-hmm. On this side of the table, I cannot inject drugs to shut this down, because drugs is actually going to fuel this. Drugs is actually going to fuel this on the hip hop side because of the points of entry, right? Mm-hmm. And so what do I now do? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to control the messaging. Mm-hmm. Because if I cannot control every entry point, I'm going to control the messaging, so that even when the message is, I'm going to promote the message being bad. And not only am I going to promote the message to be bad, once it is bad, it's going to help me make more money on several sides of it, because now I can lobby against the music and make money on one side. And then I can put my money back into that same pot to make more of that music. So it becomes a cycle. That is where the politics comes in, because now I whip people up about then pushing back against that music and lobbying against that music. So now I've taken my same money that was an entry point on this side, place it into politics to make money and get that money to recirculate. Mm-hmm.
I think also an attribute about hip hop, it's mercurial, meaning the thermometer with the mercury in it. It looks like it's 1, but when you break it, there's all of these little balls that you can never put back together. To me, that's hip hop. Hip hop has no entry point, to your point, Sherice. And that is the thing that has drives the powers that be that attempt to control it is that once they think they have a finger on it and they control it, something pops up over there, That is very, if we're, I'm just using the African Orisha, the deity Eshu. Eshu is the messenger, actually, in the Yoruba people. It is the messenger, but Eshu is so unpredictable, right? And so this is what hip hop is, and this is what hip hop will always will be. So in my opinion, what we see now is, as you said, this attempt to control the message, but also shut down as many avenues in which the messages that we don't really hear, but we need to hear, are not carried out as much as possible. But we have dope people like Kendrick Lamar, you know what I'm saying? That will say, nigga every 5 minutes, but
every 5 minutes,
his stuff becomes, his music becomes critical in the Black Lives Matter movement. You know what I'm saying? So this is the, the beauty and the innovation of it all, is that everything, hip hop is like, they took everything. It's like everything. They had no music in the schools. People were living in poverty. A lot of these cities were gutted out. And this life force called hip hop was created. My question is, what does hip hop need right now? Or what do we need from hip hop right now? I'm just like, where are we? What do we need? Where do we need to go?
I think we just need to evolve a little bit, right? Like, and I think that's kind of what you're gonna see and where we are. Like, we need to evolve in the messaging, like you said. It's funny. Method Man was on, I want to say, Drink Champs or something. And he was talking about like, where are all these new rappers coming in with all this money, right? They coming in with all this money and they talking as if like the message is, if you don't have all this money, you're nothing. If you don't have all this money, you're nobody. You can't get girls. Like, and I think the messaging in that needs to change a little bit, because I think it's also causing a lot of depression amongst these young kids who feel like, well, I don't have that, so I must not be nothing. You know what I mean? And listen, we know hip hop always had a braggadocio to it. We know, but hip hop also used to have, and this is what I tell people all the time, hip hop used to have a balance, right? So for every NWA, we had a De La Soul. You know what I'm saying? For every 2 Live Crew, we had a Talib. You know what I mean? Like, so there was always kind of a balance, but now you just getting fed with the negative side over and over. Like, now we don't have no 3 feet high and rising. So I think we need to one, take back control of the messaging, finding those artists that's going to give us 3 feet high and rising, and give them platforms, and make sure that we can find a way. And this is the difficult part, to make their platforms as big as the negative stuff that's getting out of play. But you do have those artists who break through, like Kendrick Lamar, like J. Cole, Ill Camille. Like, there are those artists who are kind of breaking through. But
Chance the Rapper.
Chance the Rapper. So I think we just need to give more energy to that than the stuff that we're anti. I think we need to start giving more energy to the stuff we support than giving energy to the stuff that we're anti, because that's what happens is, even though you're talking about stuff you're anti, you're still talking about it. You're still giving it plugs. You're still giving it, you know what I'm saying, publicity. So like, I'm anti this, I'm anti Cardi, but you're talking about it all the time. You're posting it, but you're not talking about the things you support, because you're not anti, and it don't get as many clicks, don't bring the same kind of conversation. So that artist is kind of getting left in the shadows, because like, yeah, I like you, so I'm not here to critique you. So, but I end up not saying nothing about you in this space. So those are some of the things I see that could change.
We need a concert. We need to really get our handle on COVID so we can get a concert. And I just feel like Black folks, one of the biggest reasons we're able to survive is when we get in community with one another. And this pandemic has made it just very difficult for us to gather like we are accustomed to doing, whether that's in corporate worship, whether that is at Big Mama's house after the rest of your cousins who don't come to church show up, whether that means, the summer's upon us, right? Whether that means backyard barbecues or, Juneteenth is around the corner. So my thing is that what we need right now, Kaya, I think Dame has provided a blueprint and a foundation of where we need to go moving forward. But what we need right now is to be in community with one another. What we need right now is to be able to cry. We need to be able to cry without everybody looking at us, without everybody having a judgment, without there being 12 million statements. We need a space to just be with one another and give them that look. You know that look, Kaya, when you at a white school and you look across the hallway and she shakes her head and you shake your head back like, yeah, I know. We here together. Like, I know. And that's what we need right now. We need that moment where we can look each other in the eye and say, I know 2020 has beat us down. I know 2021 has come to steal, kill, and destroy. But we are here, and we are here together, and we are going to use music, the tool that has liberated us in our souls and our minds forever, to keep pushing us forward.
Those are some really good points. I just want to add, I think we also need what I would call intergenerational repair. One of the things that hip hop did,
yes,
a lot of people don't talk about is that because of the sampling, we use jazz, funk. We use music back from the 30s, things that people had thrown away. And even though hip hop was criticized a lot, you guys are vulgar. But people weren't rocking Stevie Wonder and James Brown like that until hip hop brought it back. That was some type of intergenerational connection. I think that now, as a Generation X, I can't believe this, moving more towards more of the elder status or the senior status, we need to have some type of intergenerational understanding and movement with those before us in order for us to move on. Meaning, there are so many hip hop. I watch a lot of podcasts, and these days, a lot of the podcasts are about singers, rappers, musicians, artists who gave so much to the culture and are destitute, right? Mm-hmm. So we need some of these 20-year-old lawyers who are young and vigorous, can stay up for 3 days to do this representation. Like, these are like real institutional things. We also need to create seriously a system of independence. Maybe we do need to go back to the concerts, to the Chitlin circuits, of us traveling around and performing in our own spaces.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be anything big. What we all know, people could have worked at McDonald's for 30 years and made more money than making in the industry, right?
Oh,
so maybe we need to reinstitute this Chitlin circuit and call it something else.
Yeah.
To have more, have more concerts, have more control and power over our publishing, our creative works outside of this.
Yes.
So I think that's so important. And I have to agree, lastly, with what Master P said, is we need, hip hop needs a union.
Yep.
And not just hip hop. There just needs to be musicians, period. There was one for like jazz musicians, and I think there's some for like filmmakers, but there needs to be a union. So I am saying, Kaya Shivers, I am in a union. I welcome anybody who wants to have a conversation and working with Arc Republic to be with the Communication Workers of America. Let us do this. We need, there needs to be a union.